that's why we kind of hold on. But I remember a friend of mine also told me just to wrap these three corners together with you and quitting when you wanted to, and rightfully so. Why should you? It's your livelihood. Why should you stay daily and be poisoned by an affliction that's not benefiting you emotionally? Yes, it might bring you the monetary gain, right? And I get that. I understand that. But at what point are we gonna stop sacrificing our emotional hygiene for $1? Welcome to the circle, where we tap into the journey of life, spirituality, and wellness. We are the BoujAunties.
All right, so we're talking about core values and
how they shape our boundaries and how to develop them day to day.
like,
You know what I just realized?
what?
How they're really important for me to know. Nikki had me thinking about that. I was thinking about that meeting today. Like, what are my core values, and do core values look different as you grow? I think they do.
Do core values look different as you grow?
Yeah.
So, yes, I think. Do you think so?
I think so.
I think the core values I had maybe 10 years ago
Yeah.
have expanded and deepened.
Okay.
I don't know if it looks too far off, but I
Right.
think my commitment to them
Right.
have been,
Wave off.
it's been tested.
Okay.
And that's why the evolvement became more like I need to stick in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does. It's like if I'm living a certain way and living my particular truth,
Right.
then it creates boundaries and settings for me to be able to maneuver through with other people in a way that it feels healthy to me.
Right.
Yeah, it's when I'm ignoring those values
Right.
and ignoring those things.
Yeah.
It gets a little sketchy.
Yeah. Yeah. And rightfully so, right? Because core values are our anchors. You know what core values are? And I was thinking about this morning. Core values is like the ingredients on the back of a package.
Yes.
Right.
And then you know how you look at those ingredients, the top part is the one that has the
The
most.
yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the one that, is most prevalent in the product. Yes. That is how core values are to human beings, I think. That's how they
When I think of it,
connect to it.
and I think of we're talking and we've been doing the BoujAunties experience and having these conversations and thinking about keeping your word about time, right? And so when you think of like your time, or when you say I'm going to commit to something,
Right.
and what does that mean for you to be able to express the importance of your own time and your own worth? That's my I guess the foundation of where core values start coming in for me is
Okay.
my own worth.
Okay.
Right? Like how does my time and my presence in life, right? How does that mirror what I consider my worth?
Okay.
And then if I follow that, then I'm able to look at if I am showing up for myself. And I'm not even talking about boundaries for anybody else. Right? I'm talking about how sometimes I have to put boundaries in for myself to go, you can't say yes to everything.
Right.
Or you can't say no to everything either. Because
Right,
you can also get into that experience
Right.
where you're like, I'm shutting everything down.
Right.
But that's the beginning for me. It's where's my worth? And then I can start looking at where's the value,
Right.
the core value.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, I think core values kind of equate to how I show, like you said, how I show up for myself, and how that allows others to show up for me. So again, we go back to boundaries, right? Because if you have certain standards or certain principles that you are attached to, it helps you to relate from a particular level. I think that's what core values kind of encourages me to do, they're there to help me recognize that there are certain ethics for myself, right, that I have to respect. And when I respect them, guess what? We are each other's reflections. Then those are the things that are going to be rewarded and respected and valued, right, from somebody else. And even if they aren't, you already know that that core value created that boundary. So if it is that someone isn't showing up the way that your core values instilled within you, you already know that, okay, it's sort of core values, it's sort of like a directive, like a protocol.
Like, what is your core? Like, what's one core value?
That unity. That's a core value for me.
In what respect?
In the respect that it takes, you can go far with many as opposed to going far by yourself, you know.
So your core value is to be in a unified.
Yeah, to be in a situation where if I do have a union, I'm growing, and in a situation where communally, if I am a part of something that is progressive, I am participating and lending to that progression of whatever it is that's created as far as a collective.
I took a like a professional development workshop class with choir Archer, and it was like maybe I think this is right before the pandemic happened, so I think like 2019.
Right. Choir at the time. Yeah.
She's the original founder of Favorite Time.
Right.
And so when I did this class, one of the things that she said, like, you know, what are your core values? Right? And I said things like that, like community and unity and so forth. And she said, if community didn't exist, and there was no one else in the world, what would be the thing that you had to hold true? Like one of the things. And I said, honesty. Right. Like being honest first with myself. Right. Which is a very difficult thing to maintain. Right. Because for me, it's like you can hear the truth and still habitually do things that keeps you away from doing that truthful thing. And not like it's, oh, you ate this thing or you did this thing, but you find yourself showing up in relationships or the way that you talk to yourself, maybe not the most kindest. And the example is something goes wrong, quote unquote, you can't find it. You go, oh, I'm so stupid. Like when I was younger, that was the thing I was like, oh, I'm so stupid. I always do this thing wrong or whatever. And so that's not a truth. I'm actually not stupid and I'm not always doing things wrong. Right? And so on a deeper level, the truth to me is being able to hold myself accountable for things that I may not do that doesn't work out in the favor that I want it to, but not tell myself a lie that something is wrong with me. It's just like the action of what I've done isn't the outcome that I wanted, so I have to look at my action. Right. Yeah. So listen, so we having this conversation, right? So is the camera on? Yeah, the camera on. Is it? Yeah. So some cats are, okay. We have it. We are fully live and rolling.
Oh, okay. I did not even know that. I mean, while having the conversation.
A full conversation. Yeah. But it's a true conversation. When you start thinking about where you like, I have to say, maybe when I was, in my 20s, right, 19, 20, and kind of starting out life, being able to see people who I care about in their true light was difficult. Because I think when you first, let's say you see a sister or a brother or organization or whatever, you see them and you go, boy, that's so amazing. They're doing so good. That's so, or I really like this person because they're so nice. And then you get deeper into it and you realize maybe they're not that nice, right? And maybe it's not doing as well as you thought or you imagined because there's so much real life things that come along with it. And so for me, the value of others means that I can accept their truth. Like whatever the truth is, however difficult it sounds or how it feels, that I can accept the fact that that's their truth. It doesn't mean that I'm going to want to deal with them always.
Right.
But those are the boundaries, right?
Right.
That this person shows up in this way, or I show up in this way, and I was like, whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or whether we're living in Mars or in Egypt,
Right.
what you can trust forever and ever about me is this thing.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's why, I guess when you say that, that's why I guess it's important to have core values. Because it gives you a choice of whether you want to entertain that person or not. Right?
Right.
It does.
And even if it's yourself too.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's things that I would only do, right? Like I was a person who it was very important to me what my friends thought of me, right? Like that I found my value in the perception of others, right? And I think that showed up in ways that made me agree to things that wasn't necessarily comfortable for me, but it was the need to make that relationship comfortable. After having children and having multiple relationships, like I had to kind of look and see, was that valuable to me, or did it give me so much more work to maintain that false sense of community?
Yeah.
Because I was trying to say, oh yes, you're happy. Are you happy with how I showed up? Okay, but even if you're happy with how I showed up, but I'm not happy with how I showed up, then I'm not telling myself the truth.
Right.
And so my core value is always tell myself the truth, even if the truth doesn't taste good sometimes, right? When you look at yourself, like I look at the amount of times that I was at a job that I worked at that I hated. I mean, not just hated, like I didn't like the experience of how I was being treated, or the process of having to leave my children at home and then go to work to a place where I wasn't being treated well, right?
When you think about that, like
in that aspect of it, and I would quit, but not have no other income.
You know what?
Oh my God!
Today I saw that someone posted. Who was it? Jawari, my daughter. She posted. She said, I like the fact that I don't have to stay at a job that I don't want. The minute I start feeling unappreciated, I'm not staying, I'm out. And it takes no time for me to find another.
That's interesting.
And I thought about you. And whereas I understand that she doesn't have children or anything, but I think it looks different sometimes for us because we have more responsibility. Is that it? That's why we kind of hold on. But I remember a friend of mine also told me, just to wrap these three corners together with you and quitting when you wanted to, and rightfully so. Why should you? It's your livelihood. Why should you stay daily and be poisoned by an affliction that's not benefiting you emotionally? Yes, it might bring you the monetary gain, right? And I get that. I understand that. But at what point are we gonna stop sacrificing our emotional hygiene for $1? And that is the space that I think a lot of people are now recognizing that they no longer want to be in, and the younger generation, they don't want to be in that space because they realize the importance of creating your happiness and how much your livelihood has to do with that also.
So how does that tie into boundaries and core values?
Again, if it is that you have core values, you know what you're willing to risk your mental health for. You know what you're willing to risk your emotional hygiene for. You know what you're willing to risk those core values
and so
for, right?
I think that's powerful. And I want to ask one more question.
But just before you say that, the third part of it, I can remember a friend of mine told me years ago, the minute a job starts feeling as though it's becoming a dis-ease, guess what? it's time to leave it. Because remember, we are malleable as human beings. We take on certain things, right? Feelings, whatever it is. So imagine, and I've seen that with myself. Imagine going to a job where you cannot voice your opinion, where your voice is not being heard, where you're being treated like a subject, you know, your ideas are being shot down every minute, but you do know that you're lending some sort of influence to the business.
So that doesn't work with your spirit.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
How? How could you continuously show up in a good space if it is that your core values are being compromised?
So, question. When you saw Gerari post that, why did you make you think of me?
I was like, it was like, yeah, like, wow, like, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing if something isn't fitting to just walk away from it. Because guess what? Most of the times, it's our fear of not finding better, right, or not being able to sustain, right, or not being able to probably maintain at a particular level.
So I think, yes,
right.
I think those
all
are real
those
fears,
things, right?
Those are real
fears, right?
And those
especially when you're a parent,
especially when you're just you.
Okay,
it could just be you and you trying to take care of you, right? And that's something I won't even limit it to the space of
being a parent, right?
Of having to take care of somebody else, right? It's just you having to take care of yourself, worrying about how you're going to maintain your lodging, how you're going to eat, all those things, and then also feeling as if you've invested time into something and you may not just want to you may dislike the process, but you don't dislike everything.
Right.
And so if you just quit, then those are the things you're considering, right?
Right.
And so to agree with all the things that you said is it's a way that I'm looking at it now in hindsight, right? And so I remember getting up and walking out of this one particular place of employment. Like, I packed up my bags, I had my stuff, in my little paper bag and, my purse, and I'm just like, I'm out of here, right? Because, I don't gotta be here. I need to know my worth, and you need to know my worth too, right? And I walked downstairs. I was working in the city in this office, and I took the elevator, walked out, stood outside. I'm outside, and I'm standing there with my purse in my bag, and it's like right after lunch. So people had already gone to lunch. That rush that people go to lunch and then come back, right? So the sidewalk is kind of empty, and I'm standing there going, "Oh shit." I mean, my principal is on point, but oh shit, right? What the hell and how the hell, right? And walking in the train station and having to kind of think, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hustle up this and I'm gonna get some food stamps, or okay, no, I'm not gonna get food stamps. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go sell this, and all these things that you're thinking about. How are you gonna pay Peter and Paul and Mary and whatever, make the ends meet, and that creates such an anxiousness, right? And I wonder now that, yes, I get to stand in my principles and say I don't have to deal with this, right? But is there a strategic way of moving where I'm not moving just from my emotions?
Yes,
right?
there is.
And so I didn't use that.
Right.
Like my emotional maturity at that time hadn't gotten to the space of understanding what core values were. Like, I wasn't even aware of that, nor of wordings like my self-worth and my value. And I just knew, like, I don't like how this feels. And I don't want to be treated this way.
And that was your self-worth showing up.
We
didn't have the language
we didn't
to say
have the language
self-worth.
I didn't have the maturity that allowed me to step back and go, let me move with strategy, as opposed to fuck y'all, I'm out, right? Like, because in my head, that's what I'm saying, but I'm picking up my bag and my person, I don't need this, right? But I do need this. I need this money. I need this money, right? Because money is energy, money is resource, right? But sometimes where the money is coming from isn't coming from the direction and the space that I wanted, right? So I I'm thinking about people who are in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s and who are in spaces that are uncomfortable. Right? Or you feel like your mind is being broken. Right? Like you walk into a space and you're just like, this is heavy.
Yeah.
Right? How do you switch that without? What if you can't quit?
So
right? How do you switch whatever is happening?
Right.
So you can still maintain the things that you need to until
right.
you can leave or transition
right.
out.
So that's where perception comes in, right?
Come on, talk about it.
Right.
I like this.
You know what
so
I'm
this
saying?
this is also part of your core values.
Yeah.
This is where you get
Yeah.
to hold that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's perception. And although you have core values are
Yes,
just
I like
there
this.
to make sure that you don't bend into something that you're not, that
you don't
doesn't
break.
necessarily, right,
You don't
right,
break. You don't
right,
break.
right,
Right.
into something that isn't necessarily benefiting you,
Mm-hmm.
or, right? But with core values does come the pragmatism, right? There should be some sort of logic. And
Perception is
the strategy, right? Because now you sit back and you get to examine, okay, you know what, I do have these core values, but now you also have a vision, and I think that's what core values kind of lend to.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of lends a lens
Mm-hmm.
to your vision, right?
for that perception to be
Right. That perception to be strategic,
right.
right?
So all
if it
tools,
is-
all tools.
Yeah.
All tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what core values are. They should be tools.
So the thing that I look at, and we started off speaking about, is that does it change, right?
Right.
Do you have these set of tools, and do you suddenly, or over time, go more of this, less of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so now I look back at some of the places that I worked,
Mm-hmm.
and I can see the bullshit that I was fucking around
Right.
with. Excuse all the language. All the people who love me,
tell you,
and yes, I do
don't
curse,
even
but
think
I could
about
see that, right?
I had a whole
I could
boss.
see that. I could look, and I could look and go, oh, not only were y'all on some shit,
Right.
me too.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and I had to now look up and look in not just the work relationships,
Right.
but look at your internal relationships,
Right.
right? And go, the spaces where you held where this is totally against everything that I,
Right.
but my
Stand for.
perception now, as I step back and the lens is broader,
Right.
I can go, oh, I can see how I had,
Right.
I could have
Right.
handled that.
Right.
But you needed time to learn those things.
You do.
Yeah.
And that's what core values do for us too. Core values not only show us how we want other people to show up for us, but it shows us our reflection
Yes.
and where it is we might be BSing.
Yes.
You know, it's like a sieve.
Yes.
It's there for you to say
Yes.
like,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
well,
yes.
okay, your core value is reliability.
Mhm.
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Were you being
Being
reliable
reliable
in that situation?
to yourself,
Right.
to yourself, right?
You know what I'm
First
saying?
to yourself, right? And then
Yeah.
like I got a call the other day from a sister friend, and the things that she was speaking about, I was able to have a lending ear without having to go, hey, do this, whatever.
Right.
Just to listen, because I've gone through something similar. Not the same thing. We never go through the same thing as anyone, but something that felt familiar,
Yeah.
right? So in the similar things that she was speaking about.
Mhm.
And the thing that I said to her was, I know all the things that you're saying. I hear it. Like, I feel those things. What is your position that allowed those things to happen?
Right.
Because you walk into a room and you get disrespected. So you walk into a room and somebody's like, whatever it is, whatever you perceive as disrespect, you feel that energy, what have you, right? But sometimes you shouldn't even go in that room.
Right.
You got no business going in the room. You know that's going to happen in the
Right.
room. Why are you going in there?
Right.
And it's something that's driving you. And so I remember that young person, junior high school, wanting to be accepted somehow.
Yeah.
And then finding my own voice and realizing that the acceptance comes gradually to yourself.
Right.
And so if it takes that long for me to accept me,
Yeah.
why would I expect someone to immediately meet me and I just go, oh, please accept me? Okay, I'm gonna do
Right.
everything for you to accept me, right?
Right.
I'm still learning how to accept me.
Right.
And that's I don't know if that's anyone else.
Right.
Maybe other people go, you wake up every morning and you go, I am perfect. My way is the way, right? I don't.
That's a good affirmation.
Yeah,
though.
it is. Is it though? Is it though? Are we perfect?
Okay, but
right.
you're not.
In the light of God's eyes, of course, we're all the image of perfection. But I'm also learning about this perfect image that was created. I'm living in, and so I'm gonna make some. I'm gonna make some adjustments. Going, oh, I can look at it from this perspective.
That's not even a word for me anymore.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
It's not.
That's too much work.
Yeah,
That's too much work.
I don't even know if it's attainable. I don't
I
know
don't
if
want
it's a word
it.
for Earth.
I don't want it.
Right. You know
because
what
it's
I'm
so
saying?
stagnant. There's nothing else?
Thank you.
Listen.
Thank you.
Listen. Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
it really puts that ceiling on it.
Yes.
It really puts the cap on it, right?
So more importantly,
Yeah.
I like to talk about my hair.
Oh my God! Nieces and nephews, you see what we just go through, right?
Yes, because we need to talk about this hair. Because every so often I'm talking, I'm flipping it. I'm like, how in the hell do people have all this hair? What are you doing with all this stuff? Okay, but I'm very excited about this kind of new look, this new situation, this new experience that I'm having with myself, right? And that's all about like, oh God, the perception and my value and my core values of how do you take time for yourself, right? This conversation is good.
Yeah.
And we really need to expand it. I'd love to have a guest join us
Okay.
to really kind of get into what their values are. Because I know what we're talking about.
Right.
But
Right.
let's get some other viewpoints.
Yeah.
All right.
It's always
So
good.
stay tuned.
Right?
Yes.
Bang the bell.
Subscribe.
Subscribe, like, view us.
Share it.
Yes.
Tell the people them.
Right? That
We're here.
BoujAunties is on
Yes.
YouTube.
Yes.
Okay, guys? We haven't just floated off into metaverse somewhere.
Not the
You know,
metaverse.
whatever. Right? I don't believe I'm using that word. Oh my God.
All right, cool.
But
cool,
yeah,
cool.
bang the bell, guys.
Bang the
Okay?
bell.
See you next time. Peace.